So I'd like to give you a very warm welcome to our Return to Work webinar. I think I've met and spoken to most of you all before, but I'm Bradley Middleton, one of the family of owners at Centrado, and very pleased to be joined today by Andrew Goodacre, the British Independent Retailers Association. It's been excellent to see the uptake on this webinar. We had almost 100 registrations, and it looks like a good proportion of those have joined this morning. So it's good to see an appetite to return to work after the past few weeks of lockdown. Our aim this morning is to give you some tips and advice on how you can return to work in a safe way that will protect you, your staff, and your customers in the maximum way possible, but also to give you some pointers to how you may need to look at your business to make it successful in the post-COVID world. I don't think it's ever been a time where we need to work together more as an industry to support one another. And we're very conscious that the success of our business is completely dependent on your success, our customers' success. So front of our mind is doing everything we can to support you. And we trust that this brief session helps to that end. So just before we move into the agenda, we thought we'd cover briefly some points to make the Zoom meeting a good experience. Everybody apart from the presenters will be muted throughout the webinar, and the chat function will be disabled, but we do certainly encourage you to interact, and please use the Q&A in the middle of your screen. At the bottom should be a Q&A box. If you click that, you'll be able to type a question, and we'll do our best to answer any of those that haven't already been answered throughout the presentation. Just cover the agenda. The aim was to split into two sections, the bulk of the presentation. Firstly, the transition from lockdown and what tangible changes you may need to make in your business, in your retail space, in your workshop to make it COVID safe. But then maybe even more importantly, looking at how the retail sector has been fundamentally changed by COVID-19 and how you may need to look at your business model to make sure it will be a success in the coming months. Andrew will give us some interesting insights from his contacts in Europe and how they're maybe slightly ahead of the curve and what lessons we can learn from them. And as I say, then we'll move into a Q&A session where we'll try and answer any of the questions that come in throughout the session. So I'd now like to give a very warm welcome to Andrew Goodacre. I wondered if you could please give us a moment or two on yourself and what BIRA do, please.
Yeah, we'll do. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks to Centrado for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. So I'm the Chief Executive for BIRA, or BIRA as I tend to call it, and I joined in 2018. And it's been interesting ever since, in fairness, not least because of the last 2 or 3 months with the COVID crisis. Next slide, please. Just a brief update in case you're not sure what BIRA do. We have two key focuses. One is the representational side, I suppose, where we try to influence government, both nationally and locally, to support independent retailers. We only do independent retailers. That is what we are. That's what our heritage is and what we will continue to be. And the other element of what we do is really the practical side of offering and helping our members with essential business services. There's a legal helpline that comes free to all members, and that covers all things on HR, health and safety, and contract law. So that's the most used service, but we have a bank, which is rather unique in the world of associations. It's the smallest bank in the country, but it's there and provides loans and savings to our members. And we also run a buying group ourselves. And so we've seen challenges in the supply chain that have come from COVID-19. Next slide, please. Yeah. So transition from lockdown is obviously at the core, at the forefront of all of our members' thinking. And we were heavily involved with working with the government, the Department for Business, in developing the guidelines that have been released and amended over the last 2 or 3 weeks. The latest version was released on Monday, I think. And in simple terms, it's quite an extensive document, and what we wanted was a framework that allowed people to understand what the basics were that needed addressing, but also quite a lot of flexibility, because we all know that no two shops are the same, no two retailers are the same, no two high streets are the same. And so we needed to allow the individual retailer to make adjustments to their business that suited their business while still maintaining safety to their employees and customers. The most important thing, number one on that list, is without a doubt risk assessment or assessments, depending on your business. This is really important. I can't stress it enough, because this will be your go-to document should you get challenged about the measures you have in place. A risk assessment is simply a document that records where you believe there is a risk, especially in relationship to the transference of the virus within your business or your employees and your customers. And it's what you can do to mitigate that risk. Social distancing, the 2-meter gap in retail is virtually impossible. If you've been shopping to the supermarket, you'll know that. People cut across each other, not on purpose, but it happens. So the risk assessment is all about the things that you can do and to mitigate that fact. So you think about sanitizer, you think about gloves, you think about face coverings, you think about perspex screens, you think about contactless payments, to name a few. But those are the elements that you need to include in order to minimize the risk in there. You then need to reassure your customers through good signage and communications, so they know what to expect from you as a retailer, from your shop, and that they will feel safe. Reassurance is really important in there. You need to manage that customer flow, and we talk about social distancing, that automatically limits capacity. I think in Europe, they've determined it's 1 person per 10 meters squared of trading space. That's not been specified in the UK, but it's a pretty good guideline. So some businesses will consider appointments, single shoppers versus groups. Some businesses who have traded through this have found it difficult when families want to look around a shop, but only 1 person is shopping or buying. So if you let 4 people in and you've got a capacity of 10, say, that's 40% of your capacity with 1 person simply shopping. So that needs managing very carefully as well. Next slide, please. So Centrado kindly provided images here of what their customers are doing, and all good examples here of good communications, clear advice, and the correct measures being taken relevant to those businesses. And that's good to see. And, you know, I urge all of you to learn, look around you, look around what's happened in those shops that have traded through it, convenience stores, supermarkets. We've had hardware stores as a core of our membership trading through this, and we shared that learning within our community. Next slide, please. This whole aspect of social distancing and COVID-19 brings a real kind of new world for retail. Having been closed since the 23rd of March, many retailers are looking to reopen on the 15th of June. And it will be very, very different for those people. Shopping behavior has changed. And I think that's something, the first thing we all have to accept. It was changing before with a move online. 20% of all sales, retail sales, were online pre-crisis. I don't know what that figure is now, but it's a significantly higher, and it's unlikely to fall back. So shopping behavior has changed. There is more emphasis on digital. We've seen some of our members who were not digital go digital, and going digital doesn't always mean having the whole singing, all dancing website. It's a combination of your website, if you do e-commerce and social media, and using all of those channels in order to engage with customers, and gradually, or rather quickly in some cases, move to a stronger digital platform. Engaging with customers. There is a view, and the research and the figures are telling us that people want to shop locally. Social distancing being there means that there's less appetite to use public transport. So people will more inclined to shop more local and avoid the large city centres possibly, and use the more suburban areas or the more provincial towns. So connect with local groups. Make sure that people know that you are A, you are open, B, and what you have available, And there's apps available that can help you do that. We've worked with a few and continue to do so. Shop Happy, Localize, Near Street, they are all good technology that helps connect businesses with their local environment and local community. And because there's less browsing on high street, I think window shopping may be a thing of the past, partly because queues will be outside, so you can't see in the windows quite so readily. But also, I think shopping could become very functional in the short to medium term, because queue fatigue will quickly kick in. People will go shopping, but they'll have in mind what they want to buy, and will make that happen. But they don't want to turn up and be disappointed with stock levels not being there. So they need to know they will look digitally to make sure what they're looking for can be found locally. So it's really key to become a stronger and have a stronger digital platform for your local business. And the real challenge we're seeing with our members is where you have a personal service challenge, or is it indeed the opportunity? And the personal service areas for us are areas that I think where framing retailers come in, because it's more of a consultation that you're offering to your customers. Smaller fashion boutiques tend to fall into that category, where the sell is all about a consultation about how that dress, how that blouse, how that shirt, how that suit fits someone. It's much more personal connection with the customer. That's a bigger challenge with social distancing, and you need more precautions in place to make that happen. Think about face masks, think about visors even, which are easier to talk within. Think about the layout of the shop to accommodate it. You can actually use technology to sell that personal service as well, and that's where the opportunity comes in. We have been told by many members how they've used technology to increase their market awareness. I was talking to one fashion shop yesterday, and a lady telling me how proud she was that she's been doing a Zoom meeting like this with customers to show what product she has, what the new season range is looking like, almost like a virtual fashion show, and has been astounded at the take-up of that. So if you can able to do that's really a way forward. And the reassurance aspect is this: if you're going to be close up with people, the customer needs the reassurance to know that you have taken the requisite steps to keep them safe in doing so. And it comes down to the hygiene practices and the distance that you keep between yourself and customer. It is more of a challenge, personal service, but it's actually a good opportunity if you get it right. And yeah, lessons from Europe. The last 2 weeks, I've been involved in a Zoom meeting, listening to retailers, large chains mainly, who have operations in the UK and in Europe. And we know that Europe, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Austria, the Scandinavian countries are ahead of us in terms of their transition from lockdown. And it's quite interesting to see what they've experienced. And these are, generally speaking, these are general trends across all sectors. Some are seeing more than others, but stored up demand was evident. If you are opening up on the 15th, expect to be busier maybe than usual. That lasts for about a week. Then it drops down to a lower level than you would like. But each week is built up from that lower level whilst it's been opening. So it's not all doom and gloom. There is stored up demand, and so be prepared for that. You do need to manage queues and customers. Capacity is limited, so you soon fill up potentially. And I go back to the point about browsers and family groups and managing the capacity around that. In your situations, I think that's where the idea of appointments would play a much larger role. And we've seen some businesses in Europe go the appointment route with a degree of success. Although footfall is down, conversion rate of purchase is higher. And this is basically means you get a higher spend per head for each customer visiting your shop. And that's partly because of intent. If a consumer's going out and prepared to queue, they're likely to be interested in making the purchase. So there's a greater chance of converting that visit into a sale. And so that's a positive side. But footfall is down without a doubt, and that's everywhere across Europe. Customer reassurance, they've noticed customers really want to know that they're safe. Some of them thought they had enough hand sanitizer in and ran out very quickly. So really think about the hygiene practices you've got in place in there. I mentioned appointments. Some larger stores for the larger ticket items like furniture have brought those in very effectively. If you think about it, it's more of a consultation again, and that seems to suit the appointment mode of operation forward. And again, it's local community engagement. You know, the large city centres and the shopping centres have done less well in Europe than their local areas have done, the suburban and the local towns. So again, really important to work on that. And retail parks have done best of all, apparently, and that's partly because of parking and the space involved around those stores. So I wanted to run through, because we need time for questions in there, but this is just really a summary of what I've been trying to get across. And there's 11 points there, all of which apply to every retail business in my view. It doesn't matter what sector you are in, we actually are seeing, we cover 4,000 members across hardware, cookware, homeware, cafes, coffee shops, a really broad range of retailers. And we're seeing all of them having to reorganize their business, change their business model, be very agile in the way they do things in order to bring their business to the customer and offer the customer the reassurance that they're looking for, to bring them out and buying and returning to what we hope will be a more normal way of retailing. But it has changed, and it will continue to change as we all become used to a different way of shopping, a different way of buying, and a different way of doing things. So that's all I would like to say at this moment in time. And as I say, I think I've been involved with similar events like this, and I'd be welcome now to hear questions from the floor.
Thanks very much, Andrew. I think that's a good overview. We have got some questions that have
I've just seen one question on the chat. The apps, Shop Appy is one, Near Street and Localize are the ones that we have worked with or looking to work with in the future.
Good, thank you. I think what's become clear is that there's not exactly specific guidance on how to do social distancing and what PPE, but we've had a few questions, and one from Keith Bird at What a Picture, which we've heard from others as well, is what guidelines would you give to customers handling moulding and mount board samples, where we're often in that consultation with a customer?
Yeah, I think, yes, the guidelines are broad and a framework, and it's really then leaving it down to the individual retailer to decide, right, if I want to allow customers to touch and feel the product, and in this case the sample boards and the mount boards and so on, then I think you've got to work out, if you want to do that, how do you make it safe? So cleaning after every use, cleaning before they use it, and cleaning after they've used it, maybe introduce gloves if you really felt that way as well, is definitely the way to do it. I think you've simply got to show within your risk assessment, if you're allowing people to touch samples, you will clean before they touch, you will clean after they've touched, using requisite quality cleaners to do so, wipe down, and if you introduce gloves, better still. In terms of the distance between you, if you've got the space in your shop to create a consultation area that allows a distance between you and the customer, better still. You wouldn't need perspex screens necessarily between you, I don't think, because, as I say, you want to retain this consultation aspect within your business, because that's, forgive me if I'm wrong on this, framing is not my field of expertise, but I would imagine it is about creating that relationship with the consumer in order to get the purchase secured. So we wanted a loose framework, and not too prescriptive, to give the flexibility that individual shops will need. It is all about hygiene and whatever steps you feel a customer needs. If you want to insist the customer wears a face covering and they don't have one, think about providing some. So it is down to what you want for your own safety, your employee safety, as well as what the consumer feels they need.
Do you think one of the key things as well is communicating that to customers to give them the reassurance? So if there's visible things in place like sanitizers or like wipes or signage to show what steps are being taken, that will give them the confidence to spend.
Yeah, the learning from the supermarkets was that the more visible you make the cleaning, the better, which is why you've had people wiping trolleys, people wiping baskets, hand gel at the point of, at the automatic tills, on the point of exit and entry. Don't hide it. Be absolutely in people's faces about your ability to deliver a clean and safe environment. And then, in terms of communication, think about the messages you could put in the windows. We saw images there of good communications that shops have done that also offer that reassurance in doing so. And I think actually appointments could work in that favour as well, because if you can successfully run an appointments operation, the customer knows that they don't have to queue. Hopefully, they're in. They've got time, and you can prepare for them and prepare after them. So you can give yourself a break even between customers in order to get everything ready again. So appointments is probably a very good way of offering reassurance.
Yeah. A question here was asked, if you have a mask or a visor, that means that less social distance is necessary. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, not. I think with a visor, you offer more protection, and it's easier to talk to the other person. I wouldn't still recommend you get too close. You may not be 2 meters, but I wouldn't get too close still, because the face coverings that people are being recommended to use are not medical standard face coverings. They are more to prevent the other person from the person wearing it from spreading the virus, as opposed to receiving it. You may feel more secure, but I still think you ought to be aware that some distance would be best practice.
Good. Another question from Page Photography was concerning if they're working from home. In their case, they're working in a converted garage as a studio. Yeah. How do the guidelines affect them?
Yeah, that's a good question. In my view, I don't think this has been specifically covered in the guidelines. I've not heard discussions about it in the consultations we've had. But reality is, whether you're in a garage or in a shop, you're operating a business and inviting customers to your workplace. So the same rules will apply. You need to make sure that you are taking the requisite measures to keep people safe, yourself, your employees, and your customers. Spot checks will be done. The large retailers who have traded through this have reported several spot checks from local authorities, from health and safety executive. In the early days of lockdown, the police were visiting stores and challenging the shopping in baskets to make sure it was all essential items. Whether you're operating from home or in a more visible high street location, be aware of the spot check, and the defence will be always the quality of your risk assessment for your environment that you're working in. And again, that could be a garage, it could be a shop. Yeah.
A question here from Maxwell Roberts was about if customers are touching products. So is there any specific guidance to the gift industry? He sells greetings cards where he says he can't really trust customers not to touch them, put them back.
No, I agree. The guidance is very loose. It says that customers should be discouraged from touching products, but I agree. Some products you have to touch. I think the booksellers have a particular issue with this. And certainly if you're selling cards, it's impossible to do. It's really a question of where your staff on the floor have to be as vigilant as possible to help out. There is an argument that suggests that if customers have sanitized their hands on the way in, you're providing a clean and sanitized shopping environment, then you're reducing the risk of transmission by touching a product, because people's hands should be clean on the way in and then they hand sanitize on the way out. So that is a way of within the risk assessment of reducing the risk, but incredibly difficult. And I think the regulations are deliberately loose because there's a reality check here that, you know, shopping is about touching in some cases more than others, but it's impossible to stop it happening. The hardware stores that we've have as members who have traded through this have seen this, and they've not found massive problems with it. I mean, if they've reminded customers on coming in through signage, or if you have a staff at the door entrance not managing the queue and asking people to not touch products too much or try not to, then that's worked for them. But whether you're in a supermarket or a card shop or a hardware shop, a degree of touching a product does happen. And that has to be an accepted element of the risk. It's diminished by helping customers to get their hands clean before they come in.
Yeah, good. Just moving on to appointments, because I think that's something that a lot of our industry will consider, because like you said, a consultation does lend itself to an appointment, so you can give them undivided attention. Had you got any platforms or ways of managing that process that you could recommend?
No, we haven't, in fairness, and it's something we will have to look into on behalf of our members, because we've just done some research with our membership, asking them about what they will do differently on reopening on June 15th. We've just started to get responses in yesterday, and we'll get more in this week. But one of the key trends coming through is about the idea of using appointments and bringing appointments in. So, yeah,
I just picked up.
There isn't necessarily a platform I know of, but I think it's certainly a way forward, depending on the nature of your shop, to manage the customer, actually give better service, and get a better chance of a sale out of it. Sorry, you were saying?
No, just picked up from a couple of our customers. They had set up, one was using a WordPress website where you had a plugin called, I think, Salon, which was a hairdresser's plugin.
Yes.
But they'd used that quite effectively, so you could see available slots on available dates.
Yeah.
Another Office 365 scheduler, I think, is an option.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're right. When you think about it, the hairdressers have probably got something in place that helps them do this. If you see it as part of your future business model, as opposed to a short to medium aspect, in the belief that longer term normality will return, then you may look for a cheaper alternative to doing it. I actually think that it will become more of a normal aspect, and I think this is an aspect where shoppers' behaviours change very quickly, and there is a benefit in this market of appointments to an extent, because, as I say, the customer's getting dedicated time to them, and that's something that they appreciate.
Yeah, there's been one asked live here, and also we had from On the Edge Framing a question about appointments and how that may impact the turnover. You're less customers coming in. How do you still get that turnover through with appointments?
Yeah, it's tricky, really. I guess we don't know, because for some businesses this is a new area. What we do know is that capacity in any business will be limited due to social distancing, and so if you apply the European metric of 1 person per 10 meters squared, I'm not sure what the average framing shop is, in fairness, but that's tradable space. You don't count storage and office areas and so on. It's really it's a customer space. It's quite easy to get capacity up to 10, 15 people at a time, and that may well be limiting where you normally are. So appointments may be a very effective way of minimizing the need to manage the queue outside, if there's one, giving people certainty that they can get in at a time that suits them. Because, as I say, I think there will be queue fatigue. People will not want to be faced with a multitude of queues when they walk down a high street. You will have contention on the pavement. So I'm not sure about what it results in turnover, except that when people make an appointment, there's more of intent of buying, so there's less browsing. But as I mentioned, that conversion rate of converting the visit into a retail sale could well be higher through the appointment basis.
Yeah,
I wish I could give a definite number. I don't know. is a real answer. It will be a case of trying something, a step in the dark, but actually making that step is the most important thing, and then dealing with the outcome of it. And if it may even increase turnover because it's a more definite meeting that produces more definite sales.
Yeah, we had a bit of a brainstorm on this appointments topic earlier here, and some of the things we thought about would be looking at your normal peaks and troughs of trade and maybe scheduling your appointments in those troughs so that you're open at the peak time, available for walk-in trade, or even if you've got space for 2 consultation areas, have one available for walk-in, one available for appointments, so you're not turning customers away. We also thought about how you can hopefully upsell. So yes, you're getting less throughput of people, but as you say, there's less browsers, there's more serious buyers. And if you can upsell them to higher quality products, you can hopefully recoup the loss in the amount of sale.
Yeah, agreed. And it will vary from shop to shop, even in the same sector, because when it comes down to the ability to sell to the customer once you've got them in front of you. So, and I'm sure the people on this are very competent and got competent staff in that area, but with less customers coming through the door, you've got to be even better at selling up to them. And so, yeah, if you wanted to invest in training, that's an area where I would certainly invest in training and enhancing those skills. I see there's a question about payment up front, pre-collection. I think that's more than possible to do that, and I think it's more acceptable these days, especially as if you buy online, you pay up front anyway. So, yeah, it's really replicating what people experience online. So I don't see an issue with asking customers to pay on placing the order.
Yeah. In terms of the transition online and the kind of digital implications of COVID-19, could you give any more thoughts on whether you have an e-commerce site or whether you just need to have some examples of what you can do online, or what would be the steps to take?
Yeah, we've seen various sort of elements of this in all of our members. Those who do online well and have been doing online for some time have the full range of the website, e-commerce availability, transactions within the website, and then a very strong communication platform through Twitter or Facebook or whatever sort of communication medium they're using. So as you move into the world of digital, all I would say is don't assume that it's all about having a website. It's often much more to do with how you communicate what you have to your local community. And so it's engaging with local communities. Lots of towns have, and villages and places have sort of what's happening in Balfour Common where I live, or what's happening in Leamington, and so on. And they are groups of locals, and things get shared through there. Similarly on Facebook as well. So there's WhatsApp groups, there's Facebook groups, there's all sorts of these communication channels available. So you may start off simply by communicating digitally in order to engage and tell people what you have available, what you have in terms of special offers, what you have in terms of new products becoming available, to bring people and make people aware of what you are doing. Eventually, you may at the same time look at a website and say, well, I've got a website that also provides information and communication, but I still want a transaction to happen in store. Fine, you directing people back to your store. Ultimately, I think if you're really serious about digital, you need an e-commerce platform in there. Now, again, you don't have to invest in your own and your own development. There are e-commerce platforms available. We work with one at the moment called EKM, and they will help businesses put their business online, and so it can be trading online. So there's all sorts available, and I think it's understanding it, but just saying I'll do a website is not the solution. And I hope I'm not patronising people in that respect, but often I hear members in our organisation say, well, I've got a website, when I ask them about digital, as if that is a solution, but it's a lot more than that. And it needs a lot more clever thought and advice around it. If you're not an expert, speak to people who are. And again, we have partners available we believe would help our members to get into this way of trading.
Yeah, I think that's useful. I think it's good to see that online is not necessarily a full-blown e-commerce platform.
No.
And I think there's maybe two uses for online. The first is to get the attraction. So as long as you're ranking high enough up, if somebody Googles picture framers in your area, you need to be visible. But secondly, it can aid the decision-making process when they do come in store. If you've got good examples online of what type of framing, what type of moldings, that will hopefully help in the throughput of customers when they come into your store, because they've already been some way down the decision-making process online.
Agreed. I think it's really thinking what's the model you want to get to, and it could be you do the digital transformation in stages. It's very difficult to go from a traditional shop bricks and mortar platform to a digital platform in one go. There's a lot of learning that needs to be done along the way, and it may not be right for you. A lot of mistakes could be made if you get too ambitious too soon. But do not ignore digital, and now's the time to really start to embrace it in some way, shape, or form. I see there's a question about face masks and customers and sellers. The government advice is for consumers to wear face coverings in confined areas. So you could argue a shop is. It is only a recommendation. It's not a mandatory aspect. Likewise with your employees. And it comes down to your risk assessment. Again, I know I keep mentioning that, but it is your Bible for operating safely. If you insisted your staff wear a face covering, then they would have to wear a face covering, and you would need to provide one. It's up to you whether you want your customers to wear a face covering, and that comes down to how comfortable you feel and how comfortable your customers feel. Personally, I've not noticed a significant rise in shoppers wearing face coverings in the shops I've been in, albeit at the supermarkets or food stores at the moment.
Yeah, that's useful. We had a question beforehand, the customer asking, in regards to future investment, where should I be placing my money? In a new shop, my retail shop, or increasing my digital presence? I think it's difficult. It needs to be both, really, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it is both. I know it sounds a bit vague, maybe you might think, but it really is a question of you've got to look at your business as a whole and as I say, start to think outside the box with a digital transformation in there. There's a question there from John Harrison. I'm not sure I fully understand what he means by pro formas. I think he probably means templates or something along those lines. In terms of how many in your shop at any one time, Europe has specified 1 in 10 meters squared in general. It does vary from country to country, but it is a specification. I think in some countries it's as high as 1 in 20 meters squared, but 1 in 10 seems to be general. That's not been specified anywhere in the UK as yet. I'm not saying it won't be, but it's not been specified as yet. So you have to make a judgment of what you feel safe with. And I know that's difficult, and it does cause a little bit of concern that one shop may view 10 people safe, another shop may view the same size shop, may view 5 people safe. And that may cause questions and confusion from a consumer perspective. So I'd rather see a guideline, but the government's decided not to go down that line, in fairness. In terms of other pro formas, we saw quickly that a risk assessment was crucial to reopening. So we developed with our legal health and safety helpline a template for risk assessments that's available to members. And it's worthwhile exploring that type of thing. And if I'm going to give a plug, BIRA membership is available, and we're doing free membership for 3 months until, and that offer is available till the end of June. So at the moment, so if you were keen on joining us, then that's an option for you there. You get immediate access to all the documents, all of the information that I've been talking about in this.
Yeah, that's good. One final question we had in was about discounting. Obviously, a lot of retailers are discounting because they've got excess.
Yeah.
Is that a route to go down? Footfall in the short term?
It's not unusual in the world of retailing, is it? I think traditionally you see in clothing and the comparison products, much more so than say a service retail. I think if you really want to start making the high street seem interesting to people and worthwhile visiting, knowing of the hurdles you've got to overcome in terms of social distancing, queues, public transport, maybe in some areas, then you really got to think about how do you make it more attractive. Reassurance and safety is certainly crucial to that. But I think you will see lots of sales on the high street. You will see more so than ever. And I think most retailers will have to think of some sort. You don't necessarily have to decrease the price. There's multi-buy offers. There's different ways of promoting your product. It all means less margin to a certain extent, but I suspect it will be necessary to do something to make the reason to visit more likely, because there are more barriers now to visiting the high street than there ever were before, and I think that's important to remember.
I think our advice would maybe to use the discounts on stock products rather than on bespoke services.
I would agree. I think there's a particular challenge for the clothing retailers in our sectors because they're going to open up in June, having closed in March, so their stock is out of season.
Yeah. And
normally what they would do is have a huge sale with people queuing at the door in the case of Next or wherever it may be. And you can do a sale of old stock at discounted prices if you get the volume coming through to pick it up and pay for it. With social distancing, you're not going to get the volumes, I'm afraid. So that's the other aspect of discounting prices. It only works if you really sell the volume through. So think carefully about it, but I think customers will expect some of it. It's how you present it, and as you're saying, the products you use in order to for the discounting or the promotion that you have in mind.
Yeah, I think if they're used for add-on sales, because like you say, what you don't want to be doing is doing reduced average order values. You want to be upping the average order values, and I don't think we can underestimate an investment in your shop layout and investment in promotional materials to get that average order value up at a time when we've potentially got less customers is critical.
Yeah. I'm just looking down the Q&A, the questions coming through and statements, and again it reaffirms what many of our members have been saying about the digital aspect, the connection, using digital to connect with communities, posting things out there on Twitter and messaging out there that is actually resulting in greater interest in what you are doing. The concern about having to close and open and lock down. Oh God, do I advise on managing that? We all hope we don't have a second wave, and we all hope we therefore don't have a second lockdown. The government was quite interesting on earlier this week, I think, suggesting that there might be localized lockdowns if they saw the R figure increasing in a certain geography. I think we need to understand that more. I think if we are going to go through a phase over the next few months of opening, closing, the second wave is more likely to happen autumn, winter due to weather, and I would say the best way to manage that would be to learn the lessons from this one and say, well, I hate to beat the same drum, but that digital footprint becomes even more important to trade during a lockdown. There were other things that became clear through this lockdown, but not about at the beginning. So click and collect. A lot of people went down that route and then were told they couldn't. But that click and collect was possible during the lockdown period. It just was never made clear, and there's frustration from retailers on that. So we have to be clear, if you do get locked down again, what is it we can do better and quicker in order to maintain some more part of our business.
Excellent. There's been some excellent advice there, Andrew, and I appreciate your time. I think we're nearly out of time now. I'm not sure if we'd answered all the questions, but any that we haven't, we'll try and come back to you later on.
Please do. And there's I see Deborah's asked about buying signage. Yeah, we do have packs available on our site. I'll say again, mainly it's to members, but please explore our membership. There is a special offer on with the first 3 months free. So if that gets you past this initial crisis, then that'll be worth it for sure. So it's been a pleasure being able to connect with so many retailers. And good luck to you all.
Good, thank you. There was just the last slide there, just some resources, I think, on your website, the
Yeah.
Coronavirus Hub, and then also on our site, we've got some of the condensed version of the government guidelines.
Yeah, yeah. Effectively, visit it, have a look. You don't have to be a member to see it all. There's general advice in there for retailers, and your site will cover much of the same information. What I would say is that the research we're getting back, I think we asked people out if they felt they understood the guidance. 8 out of 10 said they did, which we're quite pleased with. No, 6.5 out of 10 said they did, which again, we're quite pleased with to an extent, but it does mean that 3 out of 10 do not understand the guidance. And that is worrying, because that's 30% of all retailers opening up on the 15th could be making mistakes, and there will be checks, and there will be, if you're not doing it right, the first people who will tell you will be your customers, because they have got safety at the forefront of their mind. If they see others doing things that you're not or should be doing, I think you'll lose business. So there's a lot of work to be done still from our side, communicating these broad guidelines out to retailers. But please have a look at the websites and get to understand what you need to do so that you are fully prepared.
Good, thank you very much. And we trust that for those that have joined, we appreciate the take up and the interest in this webinar, and hope it's been a valuable use of time. Certainly we're here to hold anyone's hand through this crisis, and anything we can do, please reach out to us and we'll do what we can. So we hope you have a good rest of your Thursday.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye all.